Regina olgi is named for Queen Olga. That's where the Regina olgi comes from. You'll find it along the west coast of Greece, all the way down to the Peloponnese, also in Corfu. So the forms that were known as, Cambridge or Racheli or Octobrensis all come from that part of the world, Corfu and that western coast of Greece. But when you move down into the Peloponnese, then there you start finding, as you go further and further down, the snowdrops flower earlier and earlier and earlier, because they've had to adapt to climate change over the last 6,000 years. And there you'll find slightly more graceful, more delicate forms that flower in September.
Now, I was very excited to hear about chrysanthemums, but when I popped by earlier this morning, you did seem to have quite a lot of other plants.
Well, I do. I will wave one at you, which I'm sure will go straight onto Alan's list.
This is going to cost me, I can tell.
I should have warned you it was going to be such an expensive morning.
Well, I mean, we haven't been anywhere for a long time, so I'm not minding too much.
Okay, so this is a plant. I got it in Holland again before the B word. And somehow, when I got it, I wrote the name down wrong. So I've been selling this as Rabdosia effusa. Rabdosia effusa. Well, it was pointed out to me that Rabdosia effusa is a spider from America. So it can't possibly. So I've been selling this plant under a spider's name for the last 2 or 3 years, but not longer. So now I've checked my information, and now I know it's called Rabdosia, not Rabidosa, but Rabdosia. Now I think I forgive myself for getting that wrong, because Rabdosia and Rabidosa, it's the same letters but in a different order. Anyway, let's have a look at it. It is the most amazing violet blue flower right now. And if you look carefully, you can see the leaves have got a lovely purple colour. It is the most stunning colour. And if you have big clumps of this, it's dramatic through the garden because it's such an intense blue violet colour now when there isn't actually that much going on. The best blues we have now are aconitum's. Alan, have you got anything else that's good now?
No.
Asters, of course, but they don't have this intensity of colour.
Asters don't have the intensity of the blueness. They go more towards purple, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So if you want something that's really intense blue, it's going to be about 3 foot high, 90 centimeters. I would say part shade, probably better than full sun, and as tough as a boot, hardy, completely hardy, no problem whatsoever.
Yes, please.
It's just unusual, So
and it's got that kind of blue that's almost luminous. I saw this across your nursery the other day, and it really catches your eye because it has that kind of luminosity.
From a distance, you can be a long way away and just get to the corner of your eye and you have to turn and look. It's the most amazing colour, isn't it? Yeah. Fantastic.
Kind of little, are they almost like little tubes, those flowers?
Little tubes. It's in the Allium and Nepeta family. So it's in that group. So the little tubular flowers with a lip, like all the Lamiums and Nepetas have. So, but it is for this time of year. It is really quite dramatic. Now we're going to talk about something that we associate with May and June, which is Allium. And there's a superb little Allium that flowers now. This is Allium thunbergii, and there's a variety called Ozawa, and there's another variety, Album. Allium thunbergii. Here we are, November, flowering and looking absolutely beautiful. Little tiny thing.
I need to go and check if mine's in flower. I've got this and I forgot.
You've got this. Okay. Well, anyway, I think it's lovely for flowering now and just, being really quite cheerful right now. And, it's interesting because most alliums we associate with full sun. We grow this one quite happily in part shade. So, yes, it will grow in full sun, no problem. But it flowers no problem whatsoever in part shade. So
that's a very good plant for growing in a sink or a tub.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, front of board or something like that.
We were talking to the Picton garden last time, and Ross pointed out that we're getting into that time when you're starting to look for the little treasures again. And I think that's in that category. It's one of those lovely things that you like, for instance, I hadn't noticed it probably is in flower, and there it will be sort of, hopefully, unless it's died, peeping out from betwixt the plants. And I love the little treasures. It's such an exciting time when you're sort of looking for them.
Well, speaking of little treasures,
Oxalis.
Yes, Oxalis europaea. It's the weed from hell, but somebody has found a variegated one. So me being me, I have to splash out. It cost me £8. ludicrous. I don't really spend that much money on a plant, but it was so hideous.
I love the almost kind of pun of splashing out on a variegated plant that has splashes of sort of pink on its leaves.
Been around for a bit, I have. But anyway, but yeah, so I thought, well, I need to have one. We're going to work out whether it comes true from seed or not, whether I have to do cuttings or not. But you can just imagine this becoming as much of a menace as the normal one, which is why you probably have to live in a cage somewhere and not be allowed out.
Well, in actual fact, they are very easy from cuttings, Joe, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So this is Oxalis europaea Plum Crazy. It's called Plum Crazy.
That's right.
And there is a second one out there as well, which I didn't buy, but I just thought, well, I'll get it.
So how do you do a cutting of that? To ask the obvious question.
Well, anything that's the right length. It depends how you want to remove all the flower buds, because you don't want it flowering in the cutting frame. And I would say that it's not the right time of year, but any shoot that's about three or 4 inches long would be ideal for cutting. I mean, it's really easy to root, but if this comes through from seed, then that's relatively pointless. And there's another species, corniculata, which runs, so you can just propagate it from runners, but this one doesn't run, or doesn't run very much. But I would say any of these pieces, the reason you take the flower buds off is because if you've got it in a closed condition in a bag or in a cutting frame, those flowers will just rot. So as you take off anything that you don't want that may rot in the frame, because you're trying to reduce the amount of proprietors and whatever you get in there. And flowers are notorious. If they open in the damp conditions in a propagating frame, then they will rot. So I would always take the flowers off, and even things like fuchsias and anything that won't stop flowering, I always pick all the flower buds off. Is that what you do as well, Alan?
I do indeed. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
it's a fiddly process, and
it's a fiddly process.
Yeah, but it is very necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same way that when I'm doing pelargonium cuttings, I take the stipules off the stems as well, because anything, as you say, anything that you don't want, take it off.
Yeah, because you want to leave enough leaf to produce enough hormones to get the roots going.
Yeah.
And I've noticed also if you leave something too long and it starts to grow lushly, then it gets botrytis. Yes. So actually you need to be observant and see just the point when it starts rooting. That's the time to get it out and move it on. Because if you leave it too long, as I say, it will grow and then be too lush and get botrytis. I'm running out of room. Right.
I just have to tell you something, Joe. Before we go any further, you're the first person I've gone onto 2 pages with.
Thank you very much.
And this is the size of my book.
Okay.
A4.
Yeah, well, I've got quite a list going on down here. Quite a shopping list going on. All right, so now is the time for Cyclamen. Lots and lots of different ones going on. So this is cilicium, which is okay to grow. I found it short-lived. It seeds itself about woodland conditions, likes pine leaf mold, Alan, of which you have a lot.
I do.
And
yes, please.
We have the season goes through purpurascens, then into hederifolium, crassifolium, which I'll show you in a minute, and then there's a whole group, mirabile, this cilicium, and a few others that flower now. So now is sort of almost peak species cyclamen time if you want to go and invest in those. They're small, as you can see, but in the right place in the garden, in my woodland garden, they really stand out because there's nothing else going on at the moment. And I know, Alan, you've got lots of woodland as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's the sort of thing that you want to put through on a woodland walk. They come up and do their thing. And cilicium, as I say, I started off with just being given a packet of seed and I just threw it in the garden, and away we go. So that's Cyclamen cilicium.
Actually, it's a thing about cyclamen. I think that people probably think, oh, well, there's a tiny little plant and I'm going to need 3, so they buy 3 and they put them in and they think, oh, it still looks a bit mean, but just wait, give it 4 or 5 years, and there'll be a carpet. This is
it's like when I started off with Cyclamen repandum.
Yeah,
I bought 3 and they planted them and they flowered and then they died, and I thought, okay, well, won't be trying that again. And then 2 years later, absolutely everywhere, Cyclamen repandum coming up. They had seeded and the ants had carried the seed about and they were coming up all over the place. And now I have repandum all through my garden. But the initial purchase of 3 plants, I thought was a write-off because they didn't survive. But that's what they do. They just seed themselves around. And some species are easier than others. Repandum is a particularly good one. Peloponnesiacum is a good one, and obviously the crassifolium and hederifoliums are also very good for naturalizing.
I bought a tray of cyclamen from the Dutch lorry the other day.
Yeah.
And they were labeled cyclamen cum. Well, clearly they were cyclamen hederifolium.
Yeah.
But amongst them was, they were just general pinks and whites, right? Amongst them were 3 plants or 4 plants, I think, which had plain silver leaves. So I've whipped those out and put them in a separate place in the garden because I think that I want to try and preserve that leaf. They had white flowers, but you know.
Yeah, well, if you grow a lot of cyclamen like I do, you'll find that you get a variation, and if you put it on its own in a separate corner, they don't come 100% true. None of them do, but they will come, reasonably true. So things like silver cloud or white cloud will come true. Tilebarn Silver Arrow will come reasonably true, but then there's other things which will never come true, or it's a very limited amount. So things like Tilebarn Helena, Tilebarn Shirley, those ones, the proportion that's right is very, very small. Red sky, the proportion that's right is very small. So you learn after a while what kind of proportion you're going to get. Now there's some people say, well, should they really be cultivars at all, because they don't actually seed through properly? But that's every plant does its own thing, and we just have to live with it. And so with cyclamen hederifolium varieties, I'll just quickly hang on, because I brought all these in. This is a hederifolium.
Yeah. Well, that's a very elongated leaf, Joe.
And totally silver.
Yeah.
And I put this on its own in its own corner, and then it will come mostly true. And then from this, I've got the same leaf but with white flowers.
Yeah.
And I put that in its own corner, and now that's coming mostly true. But I've got the luxury of having a lot of space.
Yeah.
So I can do that kind of thing, and you've got a lot of space also, so you can do that kind of thing. You can start hiving off little populations to do their own thing. And then the other one I'm waving here is the one that I did talk about, and I said I was going to show you, which is Cyclamen crassifolium. It's just as easy to grow, if not easier, than hederifolium. It's got much bigger leaves, and it flowers when hederifolium finishes, which is sort of September, October time. This one is starting, and this will flower all the way to Christmas. And it's also very sweetly scented. So some hederifolium forms are scented and some are not, but crassifolium is always strongly scented. So it's a really good garden plant if you can get it. And it's totally hardy. It's just as easy to grow as anything else, just a different species.
5 on my list, please.
Yeah, okay. Dripping water on my laptop. That's no good. Right, okay, let's go back to what I was waving before. I'll take some of this. You're supposed to put... I'm sorry, I watched a video clip about this. Some guy who insisted that white rice would cure his device problems. And if you drop your phone in water and you want to get the water out, then yes, you can use white rice to get the water out because it soaks all the water, but it won't fix your device. It will just get the water out. If you're very, very lucky and your device wasn't damaged by the water, then that's fine. It will not cure or fix any mechanical fault or electronic fault with the mobile phone. Never mind.
So we won't put white rice all over your laptop then?
No, I shall just be very careful I don't drip any more water on there. So the other group that's firing now and looking absolutely lovely are Crocus. And these are the true Crocus. So this is Crocus gulimi. And I find this extremely easy in the garden, along with Speciosus, which is the one that most people know. And there's one called Boreae. All of those 3 species are very easy to grow in gardens. Pulchellus is another one. They reproduce well, they seed about, and I've got quite a lot of this particular one. I've grown it from seed from several different sources and then just planted them out, and they do fine, absolutely fine. So that's Crocus gulimi, and this one comes in shades of white and pale purple.
How long from seed to flower, Joe?
About 3 years. So it's longer than you'd like, but it's still not too bad. And we've grown the seed in pots, but I think from now on I'm just going to throw the seed in the garden. It's almost as easy as Thomasinianus, but it's an autumn one. If that makes sense. So I just start throwing seed around. The other things I'm waving, I've got Alstroemeria. This is rock and roll, and the point with this is that a lot of plants are flushing up in the autumn. So we always assume that autumn is a time when everything's going to sleep, but things like arums.
Yeah, I'm looking at my arums this morning.
Yeah, they're all coming through. They're looking fantastic. Yeah. Alstroemerias will often flush up in the autumn. So there's a whole group of plants that will produce you nice foliage. Now, this foliage may get trashed by the winter weather, but it's quite nice now, and we could be enjoying it. And so there are things you can choose just for foliage for coming up now, for looking good, and particularly with the airums and the pulmonarias, they'll go on looking good all winter.
What you just said about foliage is so important because, I mean, you know, nobody wants to look at bare earth in the winter. And I mean, you know, you just mentioned airums in shade. This is airums in the winter, hostas in the summer, interplant. There you are. There's an answer to your problems. But foliage is just so important, I feel.
Yeah, well, this is where the cyclamen that I waved earlier come in, because you've got the flowers in the autumn, but you've got those leaves all the way through till May, and in the winter, cyclamen hederifolium leaves in the winter are particularly good, and especially you've got the silver ones and all the different fancy ones. You've got a lovely leaf pattern going on the ground, so you don't have bare ground. And if you've got this mixture of, you was just saying, airums and various other things, you can have quite a nice garden in November and December just through this foliage. You know, regardless of having the snowdrops and the cyclamen and you know, various other things flowering, as well as you've got this lovely carpet of foliage. And as you say, Alan, it grows beneath everything else.
Yeah.
So when the spring stuff comes up, that's when it's dying down. So it's a perfect combination.
Is that Cicericium Aunt May?
It is Cicericium Aunt May, and it's the same point that this will look good all the way through the winter. And yes, Cicericium, we normally grow it for its little yellow flowers, but the Aunt May, fantastic variegated leaves, and not everybody likes variegation, but never mind. But it will look good all through the winter. And again, choosing things, if you've got a small garden, choosing things that will go on looking good or have another season of interest, you know, which this Aunt May certainly does, because it's looking absolutely stunning right now.
That's beautiful. Lovely fan of variegated foliage.
Let me try and get a little bit of stuff out of here, because I've just got a little bit too much going on.
I've been in that little room. There's not a lot. I don't know how he's fitting this many plants around his laptop. I love this. So very, very exciting Michaelmas daisy entering into the shop.
Well, there's a lot of Michaelmas daisies.
There are.
And this particular one I've raised by using Aster lateriflorus.
Yeah.
We're crossing it with one of the big, tall blue ones, and I've ended up with a seedling that is clearly intermediate. Not named yet, but I think, and you've seen this, Thordis, you know it's really pretty.
Yeah, very.
It's almost certainly will get named, but asters are still going. So we've got quite a lot still in flower. We've got November's Larm. I don't know if you grow that one.
And anyone who grows, is it called Prince or the Prince? That little kind of white, pinky scented Michaelmas daisy.
Well, the lateriflorus I used to create that plant was Prince.
And this is like that on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone who's listening, it's like,
you know, if you propagate that one that you've bred and you name it, or even if you don't name it, I'd love it.
So I name it Alan Gray.
Please do. I'd be flattered.
Okay. All right. So we think that asters are mostly gone, but I'm just proving to you with one case in point that they're not. And the other one here, which I'm waving, I know it's a poor plant of it, but it's called November's Larm, obviously flowering in November. And so you can, although the main flush is over, you know, if you think it's September, October, if you pick carefully, there are varieties that flower later that you can go on with. And the same is true with, we talked about aconitum's. Aconitum, the Grim Reaper, is still looking good. You know, so there are, you know, taller, I don't know where the Simicifugas, are they still on or have they finished? Alan?
They're finished with me.
They've gone. Okay, yeah. But you know, so there are things that naturally do flower this late, and you know, again, you can pick and choose, and you can find those things that will flower at the time.
yeah.
I'm not sure what else I've got really.
I should say, for anyone who has been completely bamboozled by plant names, always the show notes of these podcasts have a full plant list. So you just need to go down and anything that's mentioned should be there in the list. So never fear. If you're listening to this as you're in the potting shed or as you're walking or something and you're thinking, oh no, I'm never going to remember all of these, don't worry.
Well, we can do something on Latin if you want at some point, if you want to.
Well, always. You know,
Yeah.
this is uber geeking out about plants. So anything, whether it's their names. Oh, the dog's about to start
I
playing
know,
with
I
the toy.
disagree. It's not geeking out about plants. What it is, I mean, I'm getting enormous pleasure from this because I'm extending the season of bloom in my garden, and I'm always wanting to do that. And I just think it's so clever that we've got a very clever man here with us today, Joe, who knows how to breed plants and all the rest of it. I mean, I'm completely speechless with admiration for you doing that, because I find it, well, I can propagate, put it that way, but I can't breed.
We all do our own thing though, don't we? And we all
Yes, we
contribute
do.
in our own way.
Yeah.
You have a fantastic garden that's open to the public, and
Yeah.
you try and present the best show. I grow plants and breed plants, and then you buy my plants, and then you put them in the garden and show them to the public.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
working around, and
Hopefully they will then come to Joe Sharman to buy some.
oh, maybe, who knows? One can always hope. One can always hope.
One thing's for sure, I think everybody is going to have lots of FLOMO from the acres of wonderful varied plants, whether it's autumn snowdrops or chrysanthemums or cyclamen or any of the other treasures you've shown. We're all going to have this fear of missing out that we tend to get about plants that we haven't yet got in our collection. I already knew I'd have a ton of FLOMO from this. The chrysanthemum, the doctor that I can never remember the name of. I need that. That's a need, not just a want. And there are so many chrysanthemums I think I probably do need. Brian Ellis, I often talk about following him on Instagram. If you are into your autumn snowdrops and your chrysanthemums and really any special plant and the story behind it, Galanthaholic, I think he is on Instagram, well worth following. He posted about a chrysanthemum called Killaton Tangerine the other day. And you can probably see immediately why I'm drawn to that with the name Tangerine. So it's obviously within my
I thought it was the Killaton that would draw you. Thordis.
Within my favoured colour palette. So that is another one that I'm sort of interested in, but I don't know anything about it or, whether it's a strong a grower. So it's probably not quite up there with the doctor, but it's on the wish list. And obviously the Rabdosia, because that just calls to you across the nursery when you see it. So I've definitely got that on the wish list. Joe, is there anything that you're hankering after?
Well, there is a plant which I may have mentioned this before, but I'm still desperate to grow it better. Is Mandragora autumnalis. So it's an autumn flowering mandrake.
Yeah.
So the spring one has got these kind of slightly browny, yellowy flowers, which are really odd colour and makes enormous fruit.
Quite lurid.
Yes, and if you have it long enough, it starts to spread around the garden and can almost become a menace. Well, autumnalis is flowering now with blue flowers, really good blue flowers. It flowers like they all do, about 5 centimeters tall, very low. The leaves are prostrate on the ground, and it makes, like mandrakes do, this enormous root underneath. And I've very sensibly of me, I got 3, and I gave 2 to Rosie Steele, and she grows it to perfection, but we can't get any seeds because there's only one plant. So what I'd ideally love to do is get another plant or 2 and try and get some seeds to get this thing going, because it's such a stunning plant. If you imagine something the size of a dinner plate with just this huge nest of blue flowers coming up in the middle, it really is stunning. So the next time you're at Rosie's, you need to go and ask her and have a quick look at this thing, or I'll take a photograph of it. But there's only one nursery that does it, and I have tried asking several times. I just need to be polite and persistent, I think, to try and get some more plants of this. But it is the most stunning thing flowering now.
No wonder you've got FLOMO about that. It sounds absolutely phenomenal. And I don't know if we've got time for Alan's FLOMO list, because I think it's like most of the podcast, isn't it?
Yes. but there are two things that stand out for me, really, and that's the Chrysanthemum Etna, which I love the look of.
I thought you'd like that.
I would also like to get Julia Peterson again, because I think I have lost her. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have. So I'd like to have that. And I would love the Cicericium or the Aster. The Aster that may not be called Alan Gray.
Yeah. Well, it's first year flowering, and I think it's absolutely stunning, having looked at lots of other asters. So
yeah.
Time will tell. I need to propagate it. I need to get it going, seeing if it is consistent and reliable. It'll probably be a couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm
not going anywhere, Joe. I've got too much to do.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a stunning variety because it's so short and so free flowering.
Yeah.
This has been even more inspiring than I could have possibly imagined. And I thought I had a good handle on it because I'd had such a good preview of the plant, seeing as we live so close. But what a stupendous way to spend a podcast.
I think it's absolutely terrific, because here we are at the time of year. I mean, we're now recording this on the 7th of November. And it's the time of year when everybody's thinking about everything's winding down. The hell it is. It's not. And we're the proof.
I'm already looking forward to next time. But until then, happy gardening, everybody.
Happy gardening, everybody. And over in a soggy Cambridgeshire, but smiling through the rain that we had yesterday, which I can say was...
I don't know why, but you've frozen.
No, you've frozen.
Alan has frozen. Poor man, he's frozen. Yeah, I'm not frozen, but Alan's frozen.
Well, what I can tell you, Alan, is if I've frozen, you've frozen in a much better position. I love that this is going to be one of those like technical podcasts where, I think you're coming back. There you go. Have we stopped freezing now?
No.
Oh, you've stopped.
I'm good.
You've stopped freezing.
No, you're not. You're frozen.
I'm good. I'm all good. You're working.
This is just one of those jinxed podcasts. So you're moving for us again.
And you're
I'm
moving
good.
for me now.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Shall I just
But
go
you've
from...
gone down to a very small screen in the middle of the screen.
Oh.
We have the ever-smiling Thordis, Sophia Maria. Oh, bugger.
Maybe we should stop with middle names.
Oh, I'm enjoying this. This is such fun.